Imagine finding out that your soulmate is a ruthless alpha werewolf who came to claim your people's land. You fought, but ultimately were imprisoned in silver chains. And when you thought you were finally free, he marked you without your knowledge. You are both his prisoner and his mate. What would you do? Chapter 40. Jenna. I ran. I changed and ran. I ran out of the house and ran all the way to Angelia and Wilson. I didn't even bother to put on shoes. All I have is his shirt on. The rocks and pebbles stabbed my foot each step I would take, but I didn't feel anything till I made it inside the house and threw myself on the couch. What are you doing here? Wilson asked while he was eating an apple. I did something bad, Wilson. Something really bad, I said while I choked back the sob that was ready to come out. His face grew in confusion while he walked over to me and sat on the coffee table. Go on. I'm listening, he said while taking another bite. I marked him. I murmured while I played with my hands. He stopped chewing and everything went quiet. I slowly looked up and see him with one leg crossed over his knee while the apple was in front of him while his other hand held his elbow. His sea-green eyes stared at me intensely. Okay, why? What's the problem? He said, raising an eyebrow, and started to eat again. Wilson, you don't understand, I said, sighing loud and rubbing my face violently. Clearly. Do care to explain? He said while taking another bite. I barely gave him a chance. I gave him a second chance after all the things he did. What's wrong with me? What he do? Another bite after that. I look up and see him staring while he chews fast. I lay my head back down on the couch and took a deep breath in. When I first found out he was my mate was when he came to take my pack's land. I submitted to him there so he won't hurt my alpha. So he took me. But I would always put up a fight which he'd chain me underground in Silver 4. He would unlock me but I would try to attack him. So he would put me back on the chain and say I need to listen. I think a month. I don't know. Maybe weeks. I finally listened and he took me to the pack doctor. My vocal cords were messed up and I couldn't eat, drink. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilgan. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He would dump me in the cell by putting the meat far away where I would be staring at it but can't reach it. So with the water. So when I was in the pack hospital. I don't know what it's called. I tried to talk but he gave me a clipboard. I wrote that once I would talk I'll reject him. And I did. I rejected him. But he didn't accept it. So he took me in front of his pack. Oh yeah, we saw that. But go on. Well, he marked me without asking and then I ran away. But that's when I got captured and was going to be bait for the alpha that found me. And tried to hurt Alkender because I had his scent and had ties with him and his wolf. But I escaped from him and took another with me. His name is Helmer. So we ran towards the opening but that's when Alkender came and killed Conan. We went back to Ander's land and Helmer became his top warrior. Alkender asked for a second chance and if I didn't like him after the second chance I'd get to reject him but he would accept it. I said okay. So when I was in my heat, I didn't know what I was doing. And marked him. I marked him. And he's asleep on his bed right now. What is wrong with me, Wilson? I was going to reject him but now I'll feel pain because I marked him too. I felt a tear fall down my face. I wiped it and took a deep breath in. Sounds like a mate bound. Angelia said from the darkness. My head snaps up and I see her firing eyes. The living room is the only thing lit. So her eyes are bright in the darkness from the hallways. She steps closer in. Clearly you're attracted to him. So you only did what your instinct told you to do. That's what wolves do. Find a mate. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilgan. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Mate. Have a pup. Then the cycle goes over and over again. You did what your body is supposed to do. She made her way towards the lit room and pushed Wilson off the table and took his seat. The ground came up and caught him, while his head snapped and glared at her. He stood up while it went back down and he walked over to the wall, leaning on it. But Angelia, you don't understand. I understand. I heard what you said. Yeah, he may have done all those things. But what I was supposed to do? You said okay. You said okay because your body was telling you it's fine. Now it's time to mate. So you guys did. And that's when you marked him because you didn't want any other female to look at him and think he can mate their pups. So your wolf instinct did what had to be done. I stared at her while she raised an eyebrow waiting for my answer. Ugh, now you made everything sound good, I said while my hands went to my face and started to rub it. Well, it's true. You didn't think when marking him, did you? No, exactly. I narrowed my eyes at her and she just smiles. I told you that you would want to be with your mate. I groaned just thinking about the pain I just went through. I thought you were just trying to scare me to go back home. Oh no. Your scent changed and we could smell it all the way here, man. Wilson was like trying to break this house down with freaking trees, she said, looking at Wilson with narrow eyes. Not my fault the alpha didn't get to her fast enough, he said, walking away towards the kitchen. She rolled her eyes at him and was about to say something, but there was knocking on the door. I looked at her and saw her jaw clench. I guess I'll get it, Wilson said while dragging his feet towards the door. I stood up when the door opened. Wilson stood behind the door while I saw who it was. He was looking at Wilson. I'm looking for the lun. He stopped and looked towards me, but then to the left of me where Angelia was. I saw his blue eyes grow a little darker. Oh, just wonderful. Very wonderful. Chapter 41. Alkenda. I woke up jumping out the bed, running towards the bathroom. The door was closed but my shoulder slammed into it, knocking out the locks. I was breathing hard and when I flipped the light switch, I saw what she did. It was red around it. But it's healing. She licked it for it to heal. I leaned closer towards the mirror and tilted my head, looking at it closely. I snapped my head towards the room and looked to the bed. I stalked towards it and let out a low growl. I huffed and walked back to the bathroom looking at the mark. Her mark. I turned on the shower and hopped right in. I washed myself off and wrapped a towel around my body. The Alex. I mind-linked him while I walked towards my closet. Tell Helmer to find Jenna. I'm busy. Just call him. And then tell him. Then you can go back to Janet. I smirked while I walked into the closet. Stop. Okay. I'll call him. Okay, now bye. Be safe. I smirked even more while I grabbed a shirt and some pants and boxers. I should say the same. I was going to reply but he blocked me out. I grew confused but I just went back to putting on my clothes. I went downstairs, getting my shoes and getting ready to go outside to help find her. Just mind-link her. She marked us, so now she can reply back to us, Donovan said. I was going to say something back but I thought about it. Let's see. I murmured to myself and started to walk towards the door. It took her a while to respond, but when she did, she sounded confused. Alkenda. I smiled while I started to walk towards the pack house. Where are you? Nowhere to be exact. I'll go home right now. Don't look for me. I have to deal with Helmer right now. Why? What's he doing? I felt myself holding back a growl. Oh, nothing. To my agent extraordinaire, Myelin Nilbay. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I'll go back in a little. Just don't look for me, Alkenda. I'll be mad if you do. I felt my jaw clench and I took a deep breath and then sighed. I'll be in my office. Thank you. I'll see you soon, bye. I ran my hand through my hair and then turned around, walking back home. Damn it. Helmer takes a step in but Wilson places a hand on his chest. Whoa there. I never in Helmer pushes it off and growls. I look over to Angelia and see her with a bored face. She looks to me and raises an eyebrow. She gives me a face like, who is he? I bite my lip and then look back to Helmer and see him toe to Angelia. She looks to him and was surprised that he was so close, so she tried to take a step back but his arm shot out, wrapping around her waist. Her hands go on his shoulders trying to push him away but his other arm wraps around her. I finally found you, he said while he blinked a couple of times and his eyes went back to normal blue. Is this Helmer? Wilson whispers in my ear by my side. And when I said "ya freakin'" Angelia burned him, Helmer jumped back and his hands went to his chest where she burned him. Look, I don't know you. My name's Helma. And you are? Angelia, but... He walks back towards her and takes her hand and kisses the back of it. I'm sorry for coming towards you in the beginning. I was really happy that I finally found you. I searched packs and packs looking for you. And I can't believe I finally found you. He places another kiss on the back of her hand. And I promise you that I would cherish you and love you forever. He said, looking in her eyes. She looked at him for a while, not saying anything. Then she looked at me. She mouthed, well. I just smiled. She looked back to Helma and he was staring at her with so much happiness. His smile never left. I'm okay. I don't know what to say. Nothing right now. I just want you to get to know me. Then you tell me about you. Especially your eyes. Okay, buddy. You need to go, Wilson said while walking towards them, but Helma pushed Angelia behind him and growled at him. Who are you? Helma, he said, crossing his arms across his chest. Helma growled at him and was about to say something, but I stepped next to Wilson and said, Why were you looking for me? He looked over to me and stood taller. Alkander sent me. He may look around for you. I mean Luna. He smiled at me while I clenched my jaw. Stop with the Luna, Helma. Whatever you say. Luna. I took a step towards him, but Wilson shot out his hand, stopping me. Helma, I'm going to slap you. He smirked and was about to say something, but there was another knock on the door. Our heads snapped towards it, and then it slowly started to open. I sniffed in my eye, felt my blood start to boil. I growled and started to walk towards the door. Everyone stared at me while I was growling at the door. When the door opens fully, I was already there and I pushed him back, growling low. Alkander. I told you not to come look for me. I growled again and pushed him harder and he almost fell backwards from the steps. Whoa, Jenna. Stop. I got worried because you were taking a long time. And you said that you had to deal with Helma. I thought he was doing something he'll regret. He growled while I walked down the steps of the house. Look. I'll go home in a little bit, but you can't stay here. I'll go home in 5 minutes. You go now, Jenna. Whose house is this? He said, looking behind me, but I quickly walked towards him and made him stare at me. No one's. Just a random house I was checking out. He looks down at me and growls. Why are you with Helma with just a shirt? I look down and remember I'm just in his shirt. Alkander, he pushes past me and storms into the house. Alkander. I yell at him, but he ignores me and continues to climb the steps and go through the open door. I run towards him, and when I make it next to him, everyone is staring at him. Wilson and Angelia has worry on their faces while Helma is just smiling. I felt my heart drop. This is all my fault. Chapter 40. To Helma, I couldn't stop smiling. I can't believe I found her. I finally found her. Yeah. And how long was this? To my agent extraordinaire, mythical. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Yes, Helma. I can't believe we didn't give up. Shut up, Nixon. You gave up a long ago. But I didn't. Now leave. I blocked him out. And I didn't know Jenna left the house, but I couldn't help but keep staring at my mate. My beautiful mate. I'm sorry I took long. I said while they interlocked our hands. Okay, this is weird. I'm going to the living room. That male said. Wilson. I snapped my head and growled at him. Her finger moved against mine. So I stopped growling at him and looked at her with a smile. She gave me a shy smile and was about to say something, but that's when we heard Jenna yell Elsie Anders' name. I looked over to the door and see a confused Alpha. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. This is going to be great. My smile changed to a smirk while I stepped closer to my mate and pulling her towards me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. So great to see you. My arm wrapped around her waist, but her body was tense. I looked at her while I see her grow white and her eyes held fear and worry. My heart picked up because I don't know if it was me that made her go this way. But the way she's looking at Alkander makes me growl and push her behind me. What did you do to her? I growled at him. He stared at her behind me, and I growled louder. His eyes shifted towards me. Get away from those, he growled while looking back at her, but then to Wilson at the corner of the room. I growled at the way he just insulted my mate. For FCK sakes. Helma, get away from those things. He growled while trying to use his alpha tone on me, but I shook my head and growled louder. Don't you effing insult my mate. His eyes shifted towards me and they held confusion, but then they went to shock. He took a step towards us, but I pushed her back even more while I took a step towards him. You're mated with a monster, he growled, but I went to attack him, but my arm got pulled back. Spark flowed through my arm and I felt my heart to beat slower. You should say that to Jenna, not my mate. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He growled at me and took another step towards me, but Jenna got in front of him and pushed him back. Listen to your mate Alpha. Because I know I would. And I would not lock her up even if she rejected me or didn't sub me. He lunged forward while I did the same. Our claws came out while he roared in my face with his fangs descended out. We landed on the floor where he climbed on top of me, but my claws went to his neck and went in deep. He roared loud, his claws went to my stomach, cutting deep. This time I roared and I flipped us over. My claws went for his face, but he caught my wrist and flipped us again. He went to my chest while I went for his throat. I got a slash on it while he's went in deep as he twisted his fingers. I roared in his face while he roared back. My leg went up and wrapped around his waist and flipped him back, knocking his air out. I got up and went to attack him again, but that's when he rolled over and shifted. He came charging at me while I quickly shifted, waiting for his hit. But it never did. I looked up from my paws and didn't see him there. I ran where he was, but that's when a tree came out of nowhere. Like it freaking grew out of the floor and I slammed right into it. I fell on my side while I felt heat around me. I opened my eyes and see fire forming around me, casting me in a cage of flames. I got up but bit back the whimper that wanted to come out. I looked down and saw my bone. Oh no. I quickly shifted and held my left hand and saw my finger broken with the bone sticking out of my skin. I started to breathe faster and was ready to yell, but when her hand wrapped around mine, I quickly looked up. His eyes were glued on my finger, but I was still breathing hard. Her eyes moved away from my finger to my chest, where the wounds laid. She then looked into my eyes. Everything went slow from there. I was memorizing her eyes, how there were streaks of gold in her red eyes. Her other hand went to my face and her thumb went to my jawline. I hissed when it made contact with my skin. My finger went to touch it and I saw blood on them. She gave me a shy smile and was about to say something, but that ging guy talked. Go change and clean yourself up, he said from the same corner. I held back the growl, but I noticed the flames were gone. I looked around to see Alkina getting pushed back by flames to a corner. He shifted while he glued himself on the wall. Jenna was yelling something, but I couldn't understand. Her hand went to my cheek, making me look at her. I saw her eyes held amusement while they sparkled with joy. I was confused, but when she looked over her shoulder to Alkandar, he was almost going to get burned by the fire touching his barefoot. But that's when Jenna yelled so loud. Everything stopped. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She growled. The fire disappeared right after that. I blinked a couple of times trying to understand and how a tree was here, but now they're gone. But the hole in the roof is replaced with leaves, which are not even falling. I have so many questions that are running around my head, but I couldn't seem to find my words. Jenna was yelling at Alkandar, but he was looking at me. I clenched my jaw and gripped Angelia's hand. His eyes trailed down to our hands but back up to my eyes. He gave me a nod while I held back a growl. He gripped Jenna's hand and pulled her out, but she was trying to stop herself with her heels, but he ended throwing her over his shoulder and walking out. I looked down at my chest and see it barely healing. Now I can say I tied with Andalpha. I smirked while I looked up and see Angelia smiling at me. Well, now you can leave my house and change. I snapped at him and curing up my lips, showing my fangs, while he stared at me with a bored look. He said while walking away. I stared at him while he walked away and slowly turned to Angelia. I have a question. How did a tree come out of the floor? And how did fire come out of nowhere? I looked down and she stares at me for a while, and then she looked down sighing. I held my broken hand, and took a deep breath in, and snapped it back in place. It was starting to heal, but not as quickly. I bit through my lip, so I get blood, but my mouth hung open to what she said. Me and my cousin, our hybrids. But it felt like that slapped hard against my face, making me taking a step back. What? Chapter 43. Jenna. I have my finger around his ear, pinching it all the way to his estate. I didn't care that he was stark without clothes, and I didn't care if I'd only had a shirt on. I was getting him home and yell at him. We passed through the crowds that were starting to form, and he would grow at me and try to get out of my hold, but I did this to my brother when he annoyed me. I tightened and twisted my fingers as he growled again. He was searching because I had my hand at waist level, so he was showing everyone his ass. I started to hear the crowd start to whisper, and they started to point. Some even laughed low, but I still heard it. And he did too. He growled loud that made everyone stop. It even made me almost stop, but I pushed myself to keep dragging him. His heels pushed down on the dirt, making it hard for me to drag, and then slowly my legs couldn't pull him anymore. His back straightened while my arm went up with his head as he growled low. His hand wrapped around my wrist. The one my fingers was holding his ear. I looked behind me, and that's when I saw his eyes glowing bright hazel. I clenched my jaw and didn't show that I was a little afraid. His hand tightened around my wrist to the point where I almost whimpered because of the tightness around my wrist. I tried to pull back my arm, but he held it tighter where I know there is going to be a bruise. What do I do to people who disrespect me in front of my pack? He growled while looking straight in my eyes. Everyone stood quiet and no one dared to break that silence. "Agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." He growled while he looked away from my eyes and to his pack members. "Punishment," they all said in unison but in low voices. His eyes went back to mine while they were still blazing hazel. I felt my heart drop. I felt my lungs stop moving. "We can't go through that again," Audrey yelled while she whimpered in my mind. I ignored her while I had a blank face while I watched him. He let go of my hand and turned to the crowd. "What's my warning?" he said loud while growling loud at the end. I looked around and saw everyone showing the side of their neck to him with eyes closed. One growl. He looked at me while I clenched my jaw again. One growl. And after that, "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." My heart picked up just to hear the words. My hands were inching to go to my neck and protect my skin. But I didn't. I didn't want him to see that I was afraid of that word. He continued to stare at me, but he started to walk around the crowd, and stopped at one of his wolves. It was a young male. "Who am I?" he said while he cocked his head to the side. "Alpha Alkender, the most powerful, most ruthless, and most feared alpha. You have no mercy on anyone," he said while he shook a little, and jumped what Alkender handed around his shoulder. "The most feared." He turned around and gave me a wicked smile. I glared at him while my fist closed at my sides. "What? You're going to chain me up, huh? Is that it? You're going to lock me up down there and chain me till I can't manly talk anymore?" I growled while I mind-linked him. I watched his face and his smirk, or whatever that was, fell, and his face held anger. I would not be humiliated in front of my pack, Jenna. I told you this before. And I told you that I won't let any of my pack members think I'm weak and not fit for this role. His lips curled up and growled at me. I clenched my jaw and slowly took a step back. He watched me while I kept taking a step back. He didn't bother to stop me, but his guards did. I growled at them, but they didn't look at but just stared at the ground. "You're wrong to do this, Alkender. I told you. One chance and don't mess it up. Either stop this or I would say what I wanted to say in the beginning." His eyes widened a little and he took a deep breath in. "Leave," that's he said. That all he needed to say for everyone to leave and not ask questions. Even the guards left. They didn't even bother to stay. They left like the others. They all walked in their homes and closed their curtains, blocking us out. "You wouldn't do that," he said while he took a step towards me. I would. Don't just assume that I marked you meant that I would reject you, Alcander. But you'll feel pain, he said while his face dropped and he took another step towards me. I wouldn't mind. It's better than silver. I said that so my pack wouldn't think I'm weak. Just because I wear your mark and you wear mine doesn't mean I won't treat you the same as my pack members. Well, guess what, Alcander? I'm not like everyone else here. You known that from the very start. I'll put up a fight. I would be stubborn if you ever threatened me with silver again. I wouldn't put silver on you then. Why threaten me with it? He stood quiet and I growled. When you're done thinking, tell me what your answer is. Tell me what your answer is for always using silver. I was about to turn around and walk to his estate, but he growled low. I told you I was born with silver. I was taught to use silver to others if they disobey or disrespect my title. My father used it on my mother. He used it on my sister even. He even used it on me. I was born into the person I am today, Jenna. You can't change the fact that my mind goes straight to silver when someone disrespect me. His eyes held anger, but I couldn't seem to hold the same anger. Then change it. Change the way you think. I turned around and walked away. The loud growl didn't stop me but made me walk a little faster. You can't change someone, Jenna. Not even if try so much you can't do it. I was born like this. There's nothing you can do. Chapter 40 for Alcander just met her again. I growled at him while I was walking around my new grounds. I had Alex with me, while I told him to tell Helmer to be in charge for a while. I still can't believe he challenged me. I growled at that but I walked around till I made it to open field and howled loud. I waited for the people to come to the field. Make sure everyone is here, I said to Alex. I already have most walking down there. They should be coming now. I'm getting the south side now. To my eigen extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing enthusiasm. I waited with my arms crossed across my chest. Mater, she clearly want to because you mocked us. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. I felt myself breathing hard and I felt my arm drip blood. My claws came out and they were deep in my biceps. I started to see my new pack members make their way towards the field and they all had their head hugged low. Do it. Why all of a sudden you want to? She was in her damn heat. She didn't know. I held back my growl and pushed him all the way in my mind. He didn't get to answer me because I already blocked him out and started to make my new members stand in lines. Youngest to oldest. Male to female. Is that all? I asked while I walked around the lines. They were somewhat small since my wolves killed some off when attacking, yes. I'm making my way back. Good afternoon. I do not want you calling me Alpha, Alcander. Call me Alpha. That is all you get to call me. I set you all in this order and my beta are going to walk down each line and ask your old rank. I walked back to the front and pointed to each spot. The first is the warriors. Then the pack's doctors. Then so on so forth. The end should be the gazer. Gender doesn't matter right now. Get yourself in order. I gave a low growl at the end and slowly they started to place themselves in order. What's going on? Alex said from my side. I watched how each would ask each other something and then hurry to run to another line. They are putting themselves in their old rank so. After a good 5 minutes everyone was in order. Just like I expected. There was little warriors left and a little of pack doctors. There was more children here. They even had their own line. The women stood there behind the men, looking at their hands or at their children, who was staring at me with so much fear in their eyes. I'm going to walk to each line and slash your hands and make you part of my pack. Well, you can mind link me. My beta. My top warrior. And your Luna. No one said anything but I raised an eyebrow. Yes, Alpha. They all said. I walked towards the gazer first and slashed my hand, while they showed me their palm and slashed it. I gripped their hand while our blood mixed and slowly I felt them seep through my mind. It took a while because my cut would heal right back up while other would heal slow. When I was done with the last warrior, my head hurt from all the new mind links, but I pushed them all back. Welcome to your new pack, and the pack whom you're all going to be loyal to. But one thing you should know about me. Expect for the part of being the most feared and the most powerful. I walked in front with my arms behind my back while I stood next to Alex. I give you all warnings. One growl and that's it. To my agent extraordinaire, Angelia and Wilson, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. They flinched at the sound of the word. Don't test me. They all nodded while saying, yes, Alpha. Good. The males stepped to the right, while females stepped to the left. Children too. They all did. Whilst Alex whispered to me, what you doing? I shook my head and walked closer to the males. You are to train with my other warriors. Own gazer. Young ones and older ones. All of you. You're in my pack to train and protect this pack till your heart stops beating. You start training tomorrow. Anyone who doesn't want to, step up. I crossed my arms across my chest and waited. It was silent until one stepped up with his hands next to his side while he stared at the ground. I raised an eyebrow because he looked weak. No muscles. No scars from previous fights. Nothing. Care to explain why you don't want to? It's not that I don't want to. I just have a question. He said while he played with his hand. When you're talking to your alpha, make sure you make eye contact. That's rude. His head snapped up and his brown eyes met my hazel ones. And what's the question? Even with our ranks, we still train with your warriors. He said while his voice shook. I chuckled. Your ranks that you had before doesn't matter to me. Omega or even Beta. Your rank is gone. It's now changed to a warrior. You're all warriors now. That is why you are to train tomorrow. Thank you, Alpha. He took a step back in the crowd and didn't look up. Not even from the stares he was getting from the other males. I looked over to the females and some looked down right away with rosy cheeks. I held back a growl because they saw my mark and yet they all had the same thoughts. I took a step towards them. You're all going to help in the pack house. I'll pick some of you tomorrow and see if you can handle the training of my warriors work out. Then consider yourself as a warrior. Your Luna would be happy to see a female warrior. I walked back to Alex. Grab your stuff. For now you are to live in the other side of my territory. I'll make sure to send some of you tomorrow to start to build a bigger pack house on both territories. Then you can move back to that pack house. I'm giving you 10 minutes to pack whatever you need. Your time starts now and I expect you order wolf from at the old border line. Children who can't shift climb on one's back. Go now. They all hurried back to their homes and quickly grabbed whatever they could. I shifted to my wolf and stood at the border of the woods. I heard their paws hitting on the ground, so that's when I took off towards my pack. I heard heavy breathing telling me they are all out of shape, so I started to slow down for them. We finally got to my pack and they were all huffing and puffing. I shifted and told them where the pack house is at, and told them I already have a group of wolves setting up rooms for them. They all said thank you and went rushing in trying to hide themselves from the stares they would get from my other pack members. Look, I think Janet needs my help with sorting them out. I'll be helping her. See you tomorrow at the training field. Alex said while he grabbed a pair of shorts from one of my warrior and hurried off to the pack house. He handed me one while I gave him a nod. I took a look around while I saw everyone trying to help out with these new people and their things they brought. The pups left, running around with some others playing. I felt my lips grow into a small smile. They would laugh and then give a small growl at the ones that pushed them down. I gave a small chuckle and walked over to them. They all stopped from running and slowly walked over to me. There was around 20 pups here. All next. I got on one knee while I had a smile. When they saw I smiled with me. What are you guys playing? I asked while I tried to put my voice in a playful tone. One little girl pushed past some of the boys and stood right in front of me. We play Alpha. Want to play? She asked while she gave me a huge smile. Some teeth were missing and I can start to see her fangs starting to come out. I raised an eyebrow. How do you play? To my agent extraordinaire, Angelia and Wilson. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I said while I rested my chin on my hand. A guy pushed her back while she stumbled back. I was about to say something but he cut me off. We get a stick and hit her, he said while he pointed at the little girl that just spoke. I felt my eyebrows furrow, WHA. They all started to say, yeah out, then the same boy said, we hit all girls. The girls that were in that group got pushed towards the first girl that spoke, and some of the other boys came rushing back with sticks. My eyes grew wide while I stood up and tried to grab the sticks from them. The little girls started to cry while the boys started to laugh. No mercy, one boy yelled while trying to smack a girl in the head, but I gripped the stick. Like our alpha, they all chanted while I stood next to the girls. Stop, I said while I would get hit by the sticks I would block. They all laughed while the girls clenched my shorts and my legs. I was surrounded by the boys and they all were laughing when they tried to hit one of the girl. Stop, I said over and over again, but none can hear me from all of the crying and laughter. I growled loud. I was breathing hard while everything went quiet. My arms went down, trying to calm these girls down, but they all ran away crying. I looked to the boys and they all stared at me. I gave a low growl. Why would you hit a girl? I growled again. Their faces paled while some got teary eyes. You did it with Luna, one said while his voice shook. I felt my mouth grow dry and my anger vanish. They all took that as their chance to run away from me. I looked around and all I saw was them running, but I couldn't help but feel my heart drop. Wait, I said, but they were all gone by then. I looked around and saw I was by myself. Is this what's going to happen? I gripped my hair while my chest hurt while I was trying to regain my breathing. What's going on? I wanted to scream and yell from the pain I was feeling, but I couldn't say a word. The pain in my chest grows and grows till my body feels the same pain. I can't breathe. It feels like my lungs are barely opening. I started to run. I ran towards my house and barged into the door. I can barely breathe while sweat was coming out of pores. My hands were shaky and the pain in my chest intensifies. I want to scream, yell, call out for help, but I can't. I fall on my knees while my hands stop me from falling on my face. I gasp while my claws come out, clawing at the wood floor. My vision was growing blurry. The air seemed thin in here, thinner than outside. I don't understand why. I want to cry out for help, but I was trying to breathe. I saw her legs before I saw her face. She slid towards me while her hands gripped my face. My face was in pain while my hand thumped on her shoulder, holding me up steady. She was saying something, but all I can hear is my heavy breathing. But that's when my vision went blurry and the dark consumed me. Chapter 45. Hell no, what? She raised an eyebrow at me while I looked at Wilson. What? I asked again. I looked back to her and she snapped her finger and a light lit next to me. I jumped to the side and my grew wide. To our agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Hell no. We rage, why be damn it, Angelia. How many people are you going to tell? Wilson said while he came close to her and he growled at her. She looked to him with a scowl. Oh, so you're telling me if you find your mate, you're not going to tell her? She growled back while she pushed him back. Not right away. I'll give her time to understand me, then tell her when she's comfortable around me. I growled loud. Who said I wasn't comfortable from knowing my mate is a hybrid? I took a step towards her and pulled her till her chest was on my side. I'm saying this because now the alpha knows, and who knows? He might as well kill us like his father killed our parents. We're leaving now. I growled loud. I waited too damn long to find my mate. I'm not just going to let you guys leave. You're hybrids. You're powerful than normal wolves. What are you afraid of? You stopped an alpha fighting. You even stopped me. You both used whatever you have to stop an alpha's fight. What are you afraid of? I yelled at him. He stared at me with his jaw clenched and his hands closed in fists at his sides. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You don't have anything to say. I have plenty to say. But if I do, I don't know if I can stop a warrior from cutting out my throat. I snapped at him while I felt my fangs come out. Let's see if it would happen, though. He took a step closer while I gave a low warning growl. I pulled her closer to me while I continued to give warnings. Wilson, just shut up for once. She yelled from my chest. She pushed off of me and I wanted to reach for her, but I let her step back. We're not leaving. Jenna is taking care of the alpha, she said while she pushed him back and walked away. I was about to say something, but someone came in mind. You need to take care of the pet for a while. I clenched my jaw. Why? Because me and Alkander are at the new territory. We're getting the wolves here and taking them back to the pack. It's for a little bit. Just send some warriors to walk around the border and check if everything is fine. I let out an irritated sigh. I looked over to Wilson and see him staring at me with his eyes burning holes on my face. I'll be back. Tell Angelia I have to do these for the alpha. He bit his lip, trying to hold back the smile. I felt my jaw tick and I was trying so hard not to smile but thinking about it. It made me laugh. He spit out his laughter while I was trying to get back to a serious face, but he repeated the word. Duties. He spat out while gasping. Stop, I said, in between laughs. The duties. He barked out his laugh while his face showed pain. I laughed louder and my side was starting to hurt. SDO, stop, I said, gasping, but ended up laughing again. I can count, he said while laughing harder. I started to laugh harder, but I gritted my teeth. It hurts. I spat out between laughs. He said, then laughing again. I was clenching my side and continued to laugh. What the hell? She said from afar. I wanted to stop, but it kept going. It who hurts, I said, gasping in between laughs. Make it street stop, PP, Wilson said. I was crying from the pain in my side, but it sounded like I was laughing in joy. But really, it was the other way around. And I bet Wilson felt the same. I heard her steps before I saw her. Her hand went around my wrist and it turned hot. I jumped back from the heat. Oh, I said while I looked at my wrist with blurry eyes. She did the same with Wilson. I wiped my eyes and took a deep breath in. Ugh, H. I rubbed my face and then my neck. What happened? She said while she looked at us both. I bit my lip and he looked at me, trying to hold back his smile. Nope. I threw up my hands. I'm not going through that pain again. I walked over to Angelia. I gave her a hug, but I dipped down and whispered in her ear. I have to leave. I need to watch over the pack for a little bit. I'll come back. Don't worry too much for me. I felt my lips curl up in a smirk. I have to go. I pecked her cheek and was out of there before she could even respond. I mentally gave myself a high five. I walked down the streets towards the estate. Some of the warriors who were walking around for patrol gave me a nod, which I gladly gave one back. It feels good to be back in a pack. I walked up the steps and knocked twice. I opened the door and walked towards the kitchen. I yelled while I opened the fridge door. I was about to reach for the turkey to make a sandwich, but I got squished by the door. What the hell? I pushed it back with my shoulder and took a step back. Get out of my fridge. That's my turkey that Janet brought me when Alex went hunting. She growled but had a smile on. That girl made homemade turkey sandwiches and never brought me one. I gasped and placed my hand over my heart. I feel no. I'm so disappointed. I thought me and her had connection. She makes me sandwiches and I eat them. See, that connection doesn't come that easy, you know, I said while I tried to open the fridge again. Helmer, all you eat is sandwiches. I know, because sandwiches are life. Depends on how you make them. I wink at her and then push her back a little and up the fridge, reaching in, grabbing the turkey. Earned. I guess you can eat my turkey. Only if you make me one, she said while she walked away. Just because I'm so nice. I looked over my shoulder and see her rolling her eyes. I pulled out the things and placed it on the counter. She jumped up and sat on the counter right next to me. How long have you known my mate? I asked while I took our 4 slabs of bread. I raised an eyebrow and looked up at her. As she got cut off by the door slamming open and someone breathing hard. Like really breathing hard. Alkander. I looked behind me and that's when I saw him collapse on the floor. She jumped off and ran towards him, then sliding on her knee, picking up his head. Helmer, help me. His face showed pain and that's when his eyes rolled back and went limp on Jenna. I rushed over there and took all the weight off of her. Oh God. Helmer. We have to take him back, doctor. She was freaking out, but I rolled my eyes while I wrapped his arm around my shoulders and dragged him to the couch. Helmer. Stop. He's an alpha. He probably passed out from the heat out there. Or had a panic attack. or something like that. I dumped him on the couch and walked back to the food. She growled at me. Kelner, leave the damn food alone and help him. There's nothing I can do. He just passed out. I grabbed a piece of turkey but it got snatched out of my hand. Help him, she growled while her lip curled up, showing me her fangs. I clenched my jaw. What am I supposed to do? I said in between my teeth. Help him. Damn it, Jenna. I threw my hands up. I don't know what you want me to do. But I don't know what to do. He's just passed out. I still don't understand how you care for him even after all the things he'd done. What the hell? Helmer, I'm done with that conversation. And you've been a rogue for so many damn years. You should know what to do. I passed out. Passed out and then wake up feeling weak. That's it. And then I drank from a stream. You have to wait till he wakes up. I threw the bread on the ground and marched towards the door. Wait for your monster to wake up, Jenna. I growled out. I slammed the door open and shifted to my wolf. Running towards Angelia. Chapter 46. Jenna. I already called Dr. Vivaness and I'm waiting for him to show up. Well, I told Janet to call Vivaness. Alkindor is still passed out on the couch. I would go check on him but I checked him 5 times already. I slapped his face. But nothing. I started to grow worried but when I heard the knocks on the door, I sprinted towards the door. Pulling it open, I reached out for his arm and pulled him all the way to Alkindor. Help him. I slammed my hand over my mouth with wide eyes. I'm so sorry. My eyes started to tear and I don't know why. He gave a soft chuckle. It's okay, Luna. Now let's see what's wrong with your mate. He pulled out his stethoscope and placed the little circle on his chest. He moved it around on certain spots and then pulled it back, wrapping it around his neck. He placed his fingers on his neck and looked down at his watch on his wrist. He placed his hand over his forehead and stood there, silently. I bit my lip, just waiting for an answer from him. Excuse me, Luna. Mind if you get me a nice cold cup of water? He looked over his shoulder but already running to the kitchen for the water. I walked towards him with the cup and carefully gave him the water. Thank you. He took a tiny sip out of it and then did onto Alkindor. I gasped but Alkindor jumped up coughing. What the heck? I slapped his arm and he gave me a chuckle. He just passed out. I've seen him have this before. It might be a panic attack or passed out from the heat. I don't know. But he's fine. He patted Alkindor on his back till he stopped coughing. I asked while I walked closer to him. Alkindor looked up to me with a sad face. I'm sorry, Jenna. I'm so sorry, he said while he coughed again. I felt my eyebrow furrow but that's when I felt my stomach curled and that's when I dashed towards the bathroom, throwing everything up. Well, it's mostly fluid because I hardly ever eat. I felt my hair get pulled back while I tried to shake my head and tell them I'd find it up throwing up more. When I was done, I flushed it all away and slumped on the ground. I weakly wiped my mouth with my arm and closed my eyes while my head rested on the wall. I pulled my hair in a loose ponytail and slowly opened my eyes. They were both staring at me while Dr. Vivaness had a smile. I furrowed my eyebrows. Why are you smiling? I said while I got up but Alkindor ended up helping me up. I walked over to the sink and turned on the water, cupping it into my hands and rinsing out my mouth. I look for mouthwash but it's in Leander's room. I looked back to Dr. Vivaness and still see him smiling. Can you please come with me to my office, Luna? He didn't let me answer because he walked out and towards his bag in the living room. I looked over to Alkindor and see him have a confused face. He looked down at me and gave me a small smile. I pasted him and walked out of the bathroom and see Vivaness walking towards the door. Come on, Luna. I'm so excited. He walks out and I try to catch up but for an older wolf. He walks pretty fast. His hand interlocks with mine while we walk out of the house. Vivaness is out of the estate and walking down the street. What did you eat? He asked while his thumb rubbed the back of my hand. Nothing. I was going to eat a sandwich but you came and dropped into the floor. I looked up to him. What happened? He stared out in front of him and watched his pack walk around. Nothing. He breathed in. I'm sorry for making you not eat. Alkindor. That doesn't matter to me. What happened? Nothing, Jenna. Please. I don't want to talk about it. He looked down at me with pleading eyes and I couldn't help but nod while I sighed. We continued to walk after Vivaness and we ended up at the pack house. When Vivaness opened the door, I was shocked. I never seen so many wolves in one house. The place was packed. Like packed. Because it's a pack house. Get it? Pack Audrey shut up. We squeezed our way in, trying to catch up with Vivaness. Why is there so many wolves here? I asked Alkena through Mind Link. I went to go grab them from my new territory. Somehow they didn't get attacked because I barely went there. But now I already sent some of my men to work on a pack house on both territories. The pack house should be bigger. Oh, okay. I looked around and I see Janet yelling at people to go to different rooms but none can hear her voice. I wanted to go help her out but the Alex ended up yelling and everyone started to quiet down. We made our way through the hallway and ended up at the same room where I was recovering. I grew uncomfortable when we walked through the doors, and I can tell Alkand did the same because his arms rose degusensed. We followed him to a room and he told me to sit down. He left the room and I looked over to Alkanda with a raised eyebrow. Why is he so happy? I just threw up and I really want to brush my teeth. I'll get you gum. Hold on. He left the room and I started to kick my feet around, but I'm not short for them to swing. Dr. Vivian S. came in and was still smiling. Why are you smiling still? I asked while I tucked one leg under me. Just because. I just need you to pee in this cup. He pulls out a cup from behind his back and I weird why. His smile grew wider. Just to see if you have a flu. I gave him a confused look but I just took it from his hand. I'm not sick. So you're wasting time looking at someone's pee. And that's nasty. Luna, please. It's for your health. The bathroom is down the hall to the left. There should be a little door right next to the toilet. Open that and place the cup in there, and you're done. You just walk back here and I'll tell you if you're sick. To my extraordinaire Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. I got up and walked myself down the hall, into the bathroom. I did what I was told and washed my hands and walked back to the room. Great. It will take 5 minutes. I'll be back with results. His smile widens and he rushes out. Alkender still hasn't came back and I was playing with the tools hanging on the wall. A knock came and in came Dr. Vivaness. So you're not sick, I told you. You just wasted your time looking at pee. I stood up but he held up his hand. But, I raised an eyebrow. He smiles at me and was about to say something. But the door opens and in comes Alkanda. I have the gum. He looks at me and then Vivaness. Vivaness smiles like a madman and then looks at me but then back to Alkanda. Congratulations, Alpha. Your mate is pregnant. I felt my heart stop. What? Chapter 47, Jenna. I'm not pregnant, I said while I chuckled and shook my head. But you are Luna. We wouldn't know what's the gender yet, but I'm not. Luna? Yes, you are. He smiled at me and then looked Alkanda. I looked over to him and I see his hand drop the gum. You're pregnant. I'm not, I said, trying to make myself believe it. But I can't seem to believe it. You're pregnant, he said again while he took a step towards me. I looked over to Vivian S and see him smiling. I haven't seen a next alpha in line for a while. Not since Alkanda. It'll be good to see one soon. And with that he left the room. I looked over to Alkanda and see him right next to me with a smile. You're pregnant. He wrapped his arms around me and spun me around. He gently placed me down and placed his hand on my stomach. I promise I'll try to change, he said while his eyes softened. My eyes softened with his eyesight. I promise you, I'm not pregnant. I gave him a small smile. It's just a bug. Stomach, flu or something. But I know I'm not pregnant. Okay then. He kissed my forehead. Believe your lie. But I know Vivian S is right. He interlocked our hands and walked us out. We went through the back since the beginning of the house is so crowded. I looked up and I see his eyes with one emotion. Guilt. What? I'm so sorry. His hand tightened around mine, and I don't think he noticed he did it because it was too tight to where I can feel my hand turn numb. About. I asked why I and from his and stopped walking. We were by ourselves on an open field, so I didn't mind that we were talking about our problem out in the open. Forever treating you that way. I still don't understand how you gave me a chance. He looked at me with sad eyes. I sighed while I sat down on the grass. I patted for him to sit in front of me, which he did. Look, I wasn't that nice to begin with too. I never gave you a chance. I was so mad and upset that the moon goddess set me up with the most deadly alpha out there. I was one who was so stubborn and never gave you a chance like now. And for you to show me that you can be a mate always wanted. So, I'm sorry. I was playing with the grass and then I would pluck one and twirl it around. But that didn't make an excuse for me to use silver on you. He growled, but more to himself. I looked up and see him glaring at his leg. My wolf and I would wanted you to submit the second we found you. But you put up a fight against us. Enthusiasm, and my wolf was the one that put my father's ways in my mind. So that's what I did. I used silver. I regret that so much. My mind is so fed up. He laid down and threw his hands up. Now with a pup coming along, how the hell am I going to be better? My heart picked up with the word pup, but I brushed that off. Look, Alcander, I gave you a second chance of us. Both of us have to work this out. I'm slowly not looking at you like the most feared, but I'm looking at you as my mate. His head snapped up and I raised an eyebrow. You don't see me as the most feared. I rolled my eyes. Shut up for once and quit thinking about your title. You know you're the most feared, so be quiet and listen. He smiled and leaned on his elbows. I want us to work, Alcander. Yes, I still have memories of what you've done each time I look at you. But since we came as one, I can't hold that grudge on you anymore. This mate bond helped me move on that. I know it was a bad thing that you did, and I still tell myself how am I standing here and not ripping out his throat. But I'm moving on. That was one chapter in my life, and I'm turning the page. So I'm asking you to do the same and not hold a grudge on yourself anymore. He stared at me for a while and I stared back. I watched his beautiful hazel eyes move around my face. I couldn't help but blush and look away. I promised to start a new chapter with you. I looked up and see him smiling. And since our pup is coming, might as well be the perfect Alpha and Luna. He stood up and gave me a hand. I rolled my eyes but took his hand. I'm not pregnant. Whatever. He pulled me to his chest and wrapped his arms around my waist. I raised an eyebrow at him. This is how it was supposed to be when I first found you. He took off his shorts and I quickly closed my eyes. Alcander, I was not expecting that. I growled while I heard him laugh. You act like you haven't seen me. And plus, you wanted me when you were Alcander. He laughed. Seriously. This is how it was supposed to go when we first met. I heard his bones snap. I slowly peeled my eyes open. I saw him in wolf form running away, but then he turned around and started to walk slow. I smiled at how he has a wolfy grin. What are you doing now? Don't mind link me. He then blocked me o'er and continued to walk towards me. Once he was yards away from me, he shifted. He had a huge smile and then he said, I rolled my eyes and put my hand under my chin. Oh my, I finally found you, I said, sounding surprised. He smirked and then continued to walk towards me. I waited and looked for years for you, and you're more beautiful than I would ever expected. I blushed at his words and looked at the floor. I saw his feet and then his hand went under my chin and lifted it up till my eyes met his. You are the most beautiful and most gorgeous thing I ever laid eyes on. I couldn't be any happier for having you as my mate. He didn't let me reply back to him because his lips were on mine by the time his words left his mouth. I wrapped my hand's neck and pulled at his hair. His arms tightened around my waist and slowly he pulled away. He rested his forehead on mine. I promised to take care of you and our pup. Chapter 48. Jenna okay. So I guess Vivinus is right because my stomach got bigger. Alcander. I growled while I walked down the stairs. Alcander. I yelled, then my eyes started to tear. It's been 2 months since I left the house. Helma came in every week asking for me, but I would yell from upstairs and say I'm busy. He doesn't know that I'm pregnant and I'm the empress, that I kept it a secret for so long. No one knows. Well, only Vivines and Alk and I kinda want to go see Janet, or at least Wilson and Angelia. I wipe my eyes and sigh. Vivines would show up and ask if I'm okay, and I would tell him he can go ask Alkender because I would beat him every day because he got me like this. Well, I kinda did the same, but that's not the point. I'm the one who's carrying the pup and has to push it out. I don't know the gender yet, but Alkender is already calling it a he. I rolled my eyes at the thought and slowly made my way downstairs. Vivines says that a normal female wolf is pregnant for 5 months. So 5 months of being in pain. Ugh, anyway, I'm going to see Angelia and Wilson, then Janet. I walked over to the door and slipped on my sandals and opened the door. My stomach is not that big, but it's a bump. But I get tired so easily. I make my way towards the house and I'm already exhausted. I look around and see some wolves smiling and some even pointing at me while they whisper to each other. I turn red and start to walk faster to their house. Finally, I made it. I go to open the door, and the door opens and Wilson is staring down at me. "Where the hell you've been?" He yelled but had a smile on his face. He quickly got out and gave me a hug, but he pulled back and looked at me. "Wow. First time and he gets you pregnant. Pull-out game is weak." He chuckles and leads me inside. "Shut up, Wilson. Where's Angelia?" He groans and he looks at me. "Where else? She's never here now." "And guess what, Jenna?" He yells while I take a seat on the couch. "What?" He marked her. I was shocked. "And guess what?" He yells again. "She marked him." She marked him too. He falls backwards, but a freaking tree root came under the roof door and caught him. I don't know what to do, Jenna. He's always here and I miss my cousin. I miss how it would just be us two. But now since Helma came and took her away, the alpha actually lets us walk around, and some would ask why our eyes are like this and we would say it's contacts. But Jenna, he looks up at me while I give him a small smile. "It gets boring here now. I found I can make any other fruit and food since I have so much time by myself. I made a freaking garden outside of the house with food." "That's pretty cool, Wilson," I said while I adjusted myself on his couch. "I guess. It's just so boring, Jenna. And I barely see you. It's been what? 2 months?" "I don't know. I don't remember. That's how long you haven't been here." "I know. I'm mad at myself because you guys became my best friends when I'm here. I really do miss both of you. But since now I'm going to become a mother, I'm afraid to go outside, and I'm afraid people would make fun of me," I said while I looked at the roots, then back to him. He sits on it and stares at me. "Why would they make fun of their Luna? You're my Luna too. And I would protect my Luna at any cost. So who are these people?" He gets up and I try to get up. "No, Wilson. I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's true." I stand up while he walks towards me and sighs. "But tell me if someone does. I always wanted to stab someone with a sharp branch." He smirks and then the door opens. I look over to it and see Helma walks in and then Angelia. She laughing at whatever Helma said, while he stares at her with so much love. "About Ifkin time," Wilson says under his breath. They both walk in while Helma takes her hand and walks towards us. "So you're good with each other then?" I say while they both look towards me with shocked faces, then to happy ones. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I told you, Jenna, when we're in the cells, that I wasn't going to stop till she knew I'm the perfect mate," Helma says while he lets go of her hand and jogs over to me. He gives me a hug and pulls away from me with a smile. "I haven't seen you in forever. Where have you been?" "Locked in a room." He looks around my face and I give him a friendly push. "No, I just had things to deal with and I didn't want to be seen or talked to." "How's the training with the warriors?" I asked while Angelia came up and gave me a hug. "It's going pretty good. We had some new warriors come in and some of them were females." My eyebrows shoot up from hearing that there were female warriors. "You picked the women now." Alkender did. He says he's trying new things for the pack. So I don't know if you did something to him, but now he's getting all the pups and have them in an open field while talking to them, for like a good 30 minutes. So I don't know if he've done that before when I wasn't here, but it's strange seeing him like that. I thought he goes help you guys train and trains for himself too. He does, but at the last 30 minutes he goes grabs and starts to have a class of some sort. I don't know. Whom? I ask. Angelia yells. I jump and then look at her. He got you pregnant. My shoulders sagged. Am I that fat that you can tell? Well, no. It's just you have a baby bump. She looks at my stomach and my hands wrap around it. Protectively. I look at her and then I see Helmer staring at my stomach. So that's where you've been. He laughs and then shakes his head. His pull-out game sucks ass then. He then gets a slap on his chest and I gave him you too. Yuck. That's what I said. Wilson says from behind me. I groan and I run my hand over my face. This is why I didn't show up for 2 months. Looks Ari Jenner. But you know it's true. Helmer says while he chuckles and passes me to sit on the couch. I marked him that day. Helmer, you act like he can pull out. I said, while quoted his and Wilson's words. Him and Wilson laugh at what I said and I groan. Just make sure you're doing the right thing, Jenna. Angelia says, but more in a whisper while she stands next to me staring at Helmer. I think I am. We're trying to move on now. And I'm happy. I look over to her with a smile. I'm beginning to become happy. She looks at me with a sad smile. Then it's okay if you're happy then. It's your life and I think everyone here wants you happy. So if he's actually making you happy, then be happy with him. I smile at her words. I will. I give her a hug and say, look, I'll come tomorrow. But later on in the day, I have to visit someone else tomorrow too. But right now, I'm going home and going to sleep. I'm so tired. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. See you tomorrow then. I wave them goodbye and make my way to the estate. Once I'm there I'm met with alking food. I smile and walk over to the iron and rest my head down. Long day. He asks and all I do is nod my head. His arm wraps around my waist and pulls me towards him and spins me around till I'm facing him. His lips pick mine and then he rests his forehead on mine. His hands goes to my stomach and stays there. It's going to be a boy. I just know it. He whispers while he rubs my stomach. I roll my eyes and smile at him. It's going to be a girl. I know it. He smiles down at me and then pecks my lips. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm,